Hello, everyone, and welcome to AquarianRadio.com. I'm your host, Janet Carolette. And today I have a very special episode of We the Anunnaki with a new researcher to our team, Emily Elizabeth Windsor Cragg. We are joined once again by Robert Evans Jr. And today we're going to discuss all kinds of stuff. We've all discovered each other just a little while ago here. I introduced Emily to Bob, and they would go, blah, 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 because we're excited. We're excited about what we can bring to the forefront here about Nibiru, the Anunnaki, Nemesis, the Dark Star, Planet X, and Solaris, dual solar system, and everything that's going on with the Earth changes. So hold one moment while I pull Bob and Emily on live here. 1 second while it clicks through. Here we go. Okay, Emily, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners? Because you're new to our audience here.
I'm new. Okay, I'm an old curmudgeon, and my experience in digital image tech comes from being a trainer at Xerox. And my experience in anthropology comes from Kroeber Library, University of California, where I worked on doctoral dissertations for a long time. And since I retired as a school teacher, I've been trying to figure out why NASA photos don't make sense technically, and I've learned a lot of stuff from re-rendering NASA images. Also, I'm possibly a thread of the Anunnaki bloodline myself. I'm telepathically in contact with Enlil, not so much Enki, and so I have a sense of their timeline also, and their God is Yahweh. They speak Hebrew, just like the ancient or even modern Jews do. So we have a common culture going back through the Anunnaki about 500,000 years. And so there's a lot to talk about. It's exciting. Is that enough?
Tell us a bit,
okay, I've got 5 kids, 9 grandchildren, and I'm retired.
You have 9 grandchildren and retired.
Yep.
I'm interested in your bloodline. Can you tell us, you have a name, Windsor Cragg. Can you tell us a little bit more about your bloodline, your connection?
Okay. I was put out for adoption at birth by my biological parents who weren't married, and I was placed in a Russian atheist Zionist family where I grew up. And I started looking around to see who I was. Okay, so the last half century has been an investigation into finding out who I was. And when I was 40, I got to talk to my birth mother, and she informed me who my father was, and I thought she was crazy. So I didn't do anything about it until I was in my 50s and retired early, and I began the pilgrimage into the records and the photographs and the documents and so forth until I found the proof that I needed that she wasn't as crazy as I thought she was. And sure enough, my dad was a Windsor, and he had a terrible reputation, and so one thing I do is I work to clear his name, because he's probably the baddest guy the UK ever had, and he wasn't as bad as they thought. But okay, that's that story. I became clairaudient in my 20s. My mother was a psychic shaman of the occult pattern, and I've always had an interest in metaphysics and, what are we doing on this strange planet anyway? And so memories started coming back to me, the green dress with tatted sleeves in a trunk somewhere, and a meadow along the chalk cliffs of Britain, and I realized that I'm very, very British, and so that has led me also to look into previous lives. I went through hypno-regression, okay, and found out some stuff that way. And then in researching the space and astronomy venues, and I read Immanuel Velikovsky back in the 60s, so I knew that all these changes were coming. I finally realized that I knew more than I humanly ought to be able to know, and I went inward and began plumbing the depths of the soul, if you can put it that way. You know, I'm a Christian. I go to church. I go to a lot of different churches. But I'm not afraid to listen. You know, a lot of people, they pray to God and they yaketa God. Well, I just got quiet and I let him do the talking for a while. And that's when the downloads started. So I've had a lot of downloads. I've written 6 books on Amazon.com. I've got another 6 books here in binders. And a lot of it has to do with our astronomical situation, which is not what we're being told. And, of course, Bob was just sharing with us how disinformation is the primary propaganda doctrine of our era. We've been fed disinformation since the sinking of the Maine, or maybe the sinking of the Titanic. You know, it's been the responsibility of the Masonic and Illuminati orders to protect the useless eaters from information that they might use to hurt themselves, you know. They really have a contempt for those of us who work. And so that's where I'm coming from.
Well, let me ask you a couple questions, and you can say no if you don't want. Are you willing to reveal who you found out your father was?
Well, yeah, he was Edward VIII, the Duke of Windsor, and and $1.50 will buy me a cup of coffee. You know,
who is Edward?
King Edward VIII of England, the guy who married Wallis Simpson. That was my father.
Oh, okay, so Elizabeth's father, right?
Her uncle, her father was my dad's younger brother.
Okay, so he's the one.
So she and I are first cousins.
Why did he abdicate the throne? There's all these stories. I heard something recently, and I can't remember what it was.
He was chased off by certain things that his father had done that scared the living daylights out of him. I just finished the book and put it up on Amazon.com, Saints or Sons of Perdition, George V and Edward VIII. And the book traces the Windsor family from 1888 to 1936, and I pretty much stopped there. But George V was in all kinds of stuff that never made it to the papers, and he basically scared the living daylights out of Edward. He never prepared Edward to be king. He never had him sit at his side and read the red boxes of information. He kept Edward out of the palace, out of Buckingham Palace, for reasons that are become profoundly obvious, just absolutely obvious. So George wasn't the nice guy that everybody thought. And his relationship to Germany is not what everybody thinks. And by the way, Adolf Hitler was not a Rothschild. And I trace his.
We will have to do.
This is a whole show. This is a whole show.
The Anunnaki, of course, this all ties in together because this is the bloodline and this is the Anunnaki and the hierarchy and then blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. It's all the same bloodline. And so when I remember back to Ereshka Gal and Ayana, my sister, who's now my daughter, the same relationship, that's the amazing thing about karma and DNA and relationships. The same relationships are playing out now that played out 200,000 years ago. I'm just amazed.
So in Mana, you're saying it's Ayana. So that's the same person, right? Inanna and Ayana?
Yes, right.
Okay.
It's Ayana.
Ayana.
Yeah.
And she's your daughter in this incarnation, this life here?
Yes, she's my daughter this time, and she's just as wild as she ever was. Fortunately, see, she used to dominate me totally, because I've always been timid. And this time, she wasn't able to do that. And she's a sweet and gentle soul, and right now she has young children. She's overwhelmed, and she's not aware of any of this, and I'm not bothering her with it.
All right.
But it's real clear that's who she is. Her young life certainly confirmed that. Whoa. It was the wild time.
We'll come back to you, Emily, and we're going to kind of go free flow in a moment here. We're just getting some structure at the beginning here.
Sure.
And then I'll pull back the reins if we get too wild, you wild people. So, Bob, welcome to the show. How are you doing? What's up with you? What's current? What's happening?
Doing all right. Well, over this last couple of days, our friends Denise Chavez and Don Hull, they've actually been able to take photographs of what they think is either Nibiru itself. They've been posting the images there on Facebook, or possibly one of the other planets. I mean, the images they've been taking on a daily basis are just something else. I got my old desktop computer back. I'm going through all the ancient stuff I had on the older computers, and I'll be pulling some stuff out and sending it to you really soon. It's all starting to come down because, like Emily, she's more into the other stuff. I'm into more of a plain facts, or as close as I can come to plain facts. You know, the images that NASA's known about them for a long time. President Eisenhower spoke with aliens back in 1954, 55. We've been dealing with aliens ever since. The Vatican's been involved in this thing. So, geez, it's just one huge soap opera type thing. You know, who didn't know about this? You know, just all of the regular people didn't have anything to know about this until we started seeing our weather change over the last 10 years, the volcanic activity changing, the earthquake activity changing, and now we're actually seeing with our own cameras, looking at images up near the sun, seeing these other things that are clearly not our sun. And then, NASA with their SOHO satellite, stereo ahead, stereo behind, U.S. Navy with their SETCHI satellites, you know, catching all these big images of something that NASA themselves calls anomalies or UFOs. We've gone through every tiny bit saying, you know, that they're not this, they're not this, they're not this, not this. All the glitches have been repaired on the SOHO satellites years ago, but these things keep popping up. What are they? You know, and it's just one huge soap opera. I mean, Nibiru should be there during the early mornings, you know, for, you know, keep jumping from Enlil, Anunnaki, you know, the sister Anu up there on the planet, and you know, that's what I've been doing almost every day. So just trying to get
our research. All of us are obsessive. That's what I do every day in between. And then other things interrupt my life. I got to get back to the research. So if you don't mind, Bob, since Emily's here, I'm going to have Emily explain to our listeners her theory is what's going on with the Nibiru, with the Planet X,